things. It's very simple. First of all, you have to catch people before they get home from work. So that's why we start 5:30. Secondly, you have to give them something to eat and drink, because otherwise they leave, so that's why we do that. We are self-funded, so it's actually quite tough for us to do that. But still, we do that, because otherwise you leave. The idea is to get as many people in Sweden, or whatever, as possible, on top of something that's around the corner. Not something in the horizon, something just around the corner. To give us a little bit of a head start in competition with all the ugly guys around the world. So that's the whole idea. We have done, I think it's 25 today, maybe I'm wrong, but we have done 25 events like this now in 3 years. And we do it on the topics that we work on things. IoT, actually it's been on narrowband IoTs, but we're doing machine learning and AI, we've done robotics, we've done low power system design, which is really hot right now, and we've done smart mobility. This is number 3. And the idea is to be very inspirational, and the only thing I promise people who go here is that you will be inspired, and you will bring new information home, and you will bring new relationships home. So that's what you're going to get. Hopefully something else. But with those 3, you're ready to take on the digital transformation. That's really what it takes. People have to be inspired, new information outside your box and domain, and you have to get to know new people. So that's the only reason why we do this. So without any further ado, please welcome my friend from Berlin, Kevin, the CTO of High Mobility. Take it away.
Thank you, Magnus. So hello everyone, I'm Kevin. I'm a CTO and founder of High Mobility. We're a vehicle API platform and data marketplace based in Berlin and also in Tallinn, Estonia. I will speak a bit about this, so the traditional car business, so the car industry, and what is going on in terms of mobility. What are the opportunities today for startups, for any type of company working in this mobility field, to work with car manufacturers or work with cars in general, and to see what's going on. Because we see that what's kind of happening is what we have seen with micro-mobility, I think not least in Stockholm as well. A lot of new kind of companies providing any type of mobility services. It's not only OEMs or original equipment manufacturers, but it's actually startups who start up, they see a need, and they come completely from the software perspective and launch new services. And some examples have also happened in the car industry, from kind of pay-as-you-ride insurance cases, EV charging applications and others. But still, in the automotive world or in the car world, it's just getting started, and this bigger boom seems to have been in the micro-mobility world already. To kind of show an example on that, this is from an article. There was a testing in Berlin, just about different mobility cases. I wanted to highlight how it kind of looks like. So this was a measurement, but the interesting part is to look at what type of mobility is being used. So the comparisons were, of course, kick scooters. We have some Swedish companies here too. We had cars for car sharing, electric scooters, bicycles. So a lot of different ways of getting around. Now, if we kind of zoom in a bit and look at cars themselves, so for car sharing, out of 15 that were compared here, 5 of them are car manufacturers. So it seems like that's interesting. There's car sharing or mobility with cars is there, it works already. But if we dig in, we see that, okay, the first one is WeShare. That's a brand of Volkswagen. So it's really a car manufacturer, car sharing. It's really a car manufacturer. Drive Now is from BMW. So in the same case, it's a car manufacturer actually. We have Miles, which is a startup. So that's good. We have Car2Go, that's from Daimler. So Mercedes-Benz and Smart. And the last one is SixShare. So Sixt is, of course, the car rental giant. But the kind of takeaway here is that even though there are 5 different car sharing companies compared here, really just one is an actual startup. And if you look at the other type of transportations, it's a different story. And why that is the case is mostly that there is a lot of friction. It's very difficult to get into building mobility services for cars. It requires, there's no kind of easy access to vehicle data, for one. For instance, to get the location of the vehicle, to get the mileage of the vehicle, and to unlock the vehicle, at least that functions. It's possible to do it, yes, as we can see, but it's very expensive. There's no easy access to that type of information. Try this. So yeah, to exemplify it with some pieces, this is basically how it looks like for startups, and often has been the case that let's bypass really the car manufacturers and just plug in some hardware. And that's the case what has happened. And we have these type of dongles. We have some other type of hardware pieces for car sharing. It's even more expensive because you cannot just plug in something. You have to actually cut some cables, install some hardware. So if you build a mobility company, maybe half of the business is logistics, and that's difficult. And on the other hand, there are even some new cars. So if you buy a new Fiat, you cannot plug in this hardware dongle because it will not accept it. So it's kind of a business that has limitations already. So that's kind of the first summary, that we see that yes, there is mobility in cars, but dominated by car manufacturers. So if you compare it to another industry, it's kind of like so Airbus, Boeing in that industry are also running the airlines, which seems strange, but that's what's going on in the car industry. So the challenges for mobility startups or mobility service providers, yes, the first one is hardware. We covered that. The scalable model is, of course, to get access to that data directly from the vehicles without any hardware needed, just to get access to data, have access to functionality from the vehicles. You can get much more information that you could otherwise, so that's an opportunity. Difficult part up to date has been how would you get that? You have to get in touch with each car manufacturer individually, get into negotiations, get an agreement, and then start integrating the system. This takes 18 months if you're successful, and you have to do that with every car brand. So what has happened, so there are good news. Market is changing, and this is to get on top of car data. And there are some changes in that sense that first BMW introduced car data around 2 years ago already, and this year with commercial terms, so you can use it for business applications. And Mercedes-Benz introduced data, so it is now possible to get actually data from these two manufacturers and use that in any type of service that you're building. And to exemplify what's really possible today, it's what type of kind of services can use it. So I mentioned insurance, so that's one case. It's possible to get data. It costs from 39 cents per vehicle per month. It's possible to work with that. Fueling cases, you can get fueling status. If it's an electrical vehicle, you can get the state of charge, you can get the electrical range, and you can get other type of information if the doors are locked, if they're open, and also some data for fleet management cases like the location of the vehicle and the fuel status as well. So this is already possible today, and it wasn't possible last year. So this is a big change. Of course, we want to see other type of functionality like unlocking the car for car sharing, and it will come just in a few years. And now to understanding of why this is happening and how this is happening, there is some kind of evolution going on. If we start from the left side to the right side, so from kind of basic entertainment, like having a radio in the vehicle, to getting a developer ecosystem or ecosystem of services. This is where we want to come. This is where everyone profits from. But it's a long way. Of course, they have to provide connectivity to the vehicles. There has to be an internal API that can be used. And in the examples I had for car sharing, the internal APIs would be the Drive Now or Car2Go can use the data. And then an external API for third parties or startups to use, and then that comes to an ecosystem. So the steps kind of seems clear, and if you look at this maybe a few years ago, you might think that you can kind of measure when this will happen, but the car industry is more complicated like that, and there were some certain kind of kicks or motivations that had to happen to enable this. And that's why I want to talk about that. How can the other car manufacturers also get to developer ecosystems? And the change, it's as often it happens, it's not that only goodwill or strategic foresight in launching kind of new open ecosystem. It's really about needs. So there have been setbacks in the car industry, some more public and disastrous, and some more kind of logical happenings, like car sales goes down, but car usage goes up in certain areas. And that is kind of what has made some things happen in the car industry, that no longer the traditional business goes as well as it has so far, at least in the Western world. And there's also an increasing awareness about customer choice, that if cars are connected and people use them, also the GDPR topic comes in, that okay, my car is generating a lot of data, what's the value I get from it as a customer? And why can I not use any insurance company instead I have to use this specific insurance company that is owned by the car manufacturers. So the customer choice has really been one thing that has pushed this in Europe, and Europe is pretty good at pushing these type of things onto larger industries. And that's kind of to summarize, yes, the car kind of ownership mechanism and this choice is really two important factors. Another one that has made cars kind of connected is e-call. I don't know how many of you were aware of e-call, but it is for really a safety mechanism for cars to, if the car happens to be in an accident, it would automatically transmit airbag information, crash information, and call the first responders. So this is something that is a safety mechanism, but to enable this, the car has to be connected. And this has been now in Europe since April last year. Every new car that is sold has to be equipped with e-call. That means that every new car that is sold has to be connected. And that already starts to create the first thing that's necessary to enable a new type of mobility market, that the vehicles are actually enabled. There are millions of cars on the roads that are all transmitting data. And if you look at kind of a time span of the next 10 years, this will increase quite rapidly. So just in Europe and US, in the next 10 years, there will be 300 million connected cars on the streets, driving around, each one of them transmitting data all the time. That's the first thing. But now the second is how, so if the cars are kind of emitting that data, it can be used by the car manufacturers. But what our interest is how to see how can startups and then other type of mobility services get access to that data. And this is kind of the next thing that, okay, we had e-call, connectivity in general speeding up, and then we had kind of an agreement happening on a European level between the car manufacturers that they will start to share data outside of their own organizations. And this is a bit like if you would compare it to open banking. So in the banking industry, there was kind of a move to open up, that they had to open up interfaces, APIs to the banking systems. It's a bit the same thing in the car industry, because it was more or less decided or agreed that yes, the car manufacturers should not have data monopoly, which they would be happy to have in some ways, but they should share that data outside. So it's a commitment for the future that yes, we will share that data by car manufacturers, but also of course for them a way of kind of finding new revenues and monetizing car data now that maybe traditional business is not going as strong as before. And what this leads to is that if we go back to the first slide, we have two manufacturers who are today having a transparent approach or offering vehicle data. In a few years, all of the car manufacturers in Europe will do that. And that's really when we get to all of these OEMs, all of these car manufacturers, Europe and US, then 300 million cars. That's of course a big change in the industry. This is nothing that was really possible 3-4 years ago. Now it's starting to become possible. But if you look at this is the kind of opportunity that will bring completely new services, and I think also completely new companies to markets that we don't know today, that will operate car sharing companies or whatever it might be in different regions of the world. Because now everyone, even if they're in Europe, South America and Asia, they could just buy a car or buy a fleet of cars, and they have an interface. They don't need to install any hardware. They can start a new mobility service, even if it's just for friends and with family. So that's the kind of message I wanna bring out today, to show that is happening in the car industry, that it's really becoming the kind of next type of developer platform, the next kind of connected, interesting thing that is really scaled and can be used. And to kind of end it off with just a simple quote from Oliver Blumer, the Porsche CEO, where he said that that kind of transformation that the car industry is going through in the next 5 years, it hasn't happened in the last 50 years. So it is really a major shift. Yeah, thank you.
From Madrid, representing Net for Things. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Yes, well, I mean, first of all, I have to say a small disclaimer. So I'm not new to this place, and I have to thank Magnus the opportunity to be here. And I was actually involved in operations with Springworks a couple of years ago, and see Frederick over there. So some of my background comes actually from a good use case which has been the B2C connected car in Sweden. Okay, so I'm talking today about connected cars. I'm talking today about ecosystems, and I'm talking today about 5G. Okay, so maybe some buzzwords that putting all together makes the mobility an interesting game to play. And as Kevin has explained to us before, things are changing in the space, and we are convinced that changes will happen from a user perspective. So only if we are providing some value for the end user, so the car owner or the driver, we can actually provoke a disruption or a change in the business. So for things, my company is a still small B2B company, which is manufacturing its own connected car platform. We help telcos and other companies to build their own ecosystems, and our biggest customer is Telefónica, the incumbent telco in Spain and Latin America. Our vision is to build sustainable ecosystems around car ownership that would help telcos to go step by step into a future 5G autonomous car kind of environment. And that's why the initial headline from my presentation was 5 plus 5G. So I will try to elaborate on that. So, I mean, I'm not talking about the future now, I'm talking about the present. So a connected car is something that we have learned for the last 10, 15 years. Technology is already mature. There are several dongles in the market where you can connect directly to your car. Even if your car is 20 years old, and we have seen a nice picture of the several dongles that you can find in the market. So it's not rocket science. What we are focused today is to make it happen. So to first of all, drive telcos and other partners to be owner-centric, so to be relevant to the customers with services that they really value. I mean, even if the center of the world is Wi-Fi connection, okay, Wi-Fi is a very valuable service to customers. Emergency call, localization of the vehicle, financial services, etc., etc. We have to be effective. So technology has to work, and it does work. Okay, so tens of thousands of cars that we are connecting all over the world are actually progressing well without any major issues. So the technology is already fine. We just have to build the right ecosystem that provides the customer a reason to actually continue trusting on this kind of services. And of course, we respect privacy. Okay? Which is something that, especially in Europe, is of the utmost importance. So we are not talking about technology. We are a technology company, but we are not talking about technology because technology is a given for us. It's the present, it's not the future. The future is the business model. So is how to solve mobility needs. So how to make it happen for a telco to convince the customers that connecting the cars is actually valuable. Okay, is how to drive a better user experience by connecting all together the different members of the ecosystem that are not even digitalized. Okay, so I know that this sounds like a salesman quote, but the moment is now. It's now when insurance companies are beginning to get into the digital life of the customers. Is now when energy companies are interacting digitally with customers. Is now when digital life is life itself, and that's the reason why we do think that the companies that are driving this revolution, or what it was a revolution 5 years ago, and now they need to take the driver's seat and begin expanding this business altogether. So coming back to the ecosystem, so why do we think that telcos are the right ones to drive these movements? Well, obviously, based on our experience, telcos are present in every citizen's life. They provide a connectivity, they have a commercial capillarity, they understand the connectivity needs, they drive technology, and also they have a neutral position in a given ecosystem, okay, like the connected car ecosystem. So there are some examples that already from connected car services that are in the market, like insurance companies, oil stations, financial institutions, retailers, manufacturers, etc. So the question is how we can bring all these people together around a car-connected platform. And the answer is always the same, is about rounding a business model. So you have to be cheap, you have to be easy to install, you have to you get into the market very quick in mass. You have to build the model together with your partners, and you have to be prepared to share revenues. So telcos are used to share infrastructure. Now what we are helping telcos is to believe that they are part of a bigger ecosystem, and this ecosystem has to grow and nurture from a bigger cake than they had before. And this is an illustrative picture of what 5 plus 5G means to us. Okay, so here you have the 5 levels of autonomy in cars. So we are probably now in level 3. In some high-end vehicles, we are reaching level 4, and level 5 is full autonomy, which for people of my generation maybe is a dream or an asymptotic status. But what is true is that when it comes to car technology, the OEMs that are developing technology for cars, we are used to have ADAS, so autonomous systems that helps you when you are driving your car with small or little needs of connectivity with the external world, But as long as ADAS are evolving into the autonomous status, you need a better network. And I don't really know what is going to be the next killer application for 5G, but maybe it will be a self-fulfilling prophecy that 5G will probably find its full sense with level 5 of autonomy with cars. So, so this is about technology. So this is about telcos helping OEMs to interact with everything from other cars and infrastructure. But what about ecosystems? So in a world where cars are isolated, ecosystems are a one-to-one kind of thing. So you have your insurance company, you have your favorite repair garage, and that's all. But when you begin connecting your car to an ecosystem, when the ecosystem begins to analyze and treat the data from your car, you are giving choice to the customer. And that goes even further when the car is able to take its own decisions. And this is about autonomous car. But I'm not thinking about artificial intelligences deciding which is the insurance policy they want to have at any given point in time for autonomous cars. I don't think that a future is coming on that side. I'm thinking about providing intelligence to the traffic system so that mobility goes better as long as technology and dense networks are going together. But the main idea from this slide is that if telcos they want to play a significant role in this space, and they don't want to just profit from connectivity, so they want to share a piece of the cake, they have to begin building the ecosystem from here. Okay, and that's the reason we do think that even if connecting cars with aftermarket solutions, that seems to be a thing of the 20th century, is good because it's the entry point for a future ecosystem which we don't know how it's going to be, but is going to be dominated either from car manufacturers or from other members of the ecosystems. And Net for Things is here to help, especially telcos, to have at least the opportunity to begin leading on this space. Okay. So this is an action call for telcos. Obviously, we are not talking about revolution. Okay, we are talking about evolution. Okay, so we are going step by step, helping telcos to build a sustainable business model around car ownership to effectively monetize the next industry challenge, which is 5G in combination with autonomous car. Okay, that's it. I can take
representing M and Volvo Car Mobility. So Volvo Car Mobility is a standalone entity of Volvo Cars. So we're operating from Stockholm, so this is where our headquarters is, given that this is where the software developers are and all the competences for building a tech sort of company within the Volvo family. And So Volvo Car Mobility is the company itself, the legal entity, while M is the platform, the new service, like smart car sharing, so the next generation car sharing that we're bringing to the market. So let's see now if everything works. Yeah. So essentially, we're starting off with thinking about the cities of today. I mean, we see an ever increasing amount of people moving into the cities. Cities by 2050, more or less 70% of the world's population will live in urban and metro areas. That's the estimation for the future. And that said, I mean, we are looking into a world where there's an increasing need for innovative and personalized solutions that are to simplify your everyday. And this is where M comes in. And I mean, in terms of digital services and services simplifying your life, we already seen a lot of things moving in terms of like you are already shopping groceries online, you are streaming movies, you're streaming music on your smartphone, you're also FaceTiming with family and friends, very from far distances. But yet, when it comes to cars, nothing so much has not. As of yet, nothing has really happened in terms of bringing truly dependable car sharing service to the market. So this is where we come in, because from now on we are taking a new stab at what car sharing of the modern world and a smart city is. So M is a smart car sharing and a truly personal experience that we're taking to the market. It learns from your previous behavior, and we build upon the data and the data that we gather both from our users, but also in terms of the city itself, how we partner with cities and progressive companies in order to make our service more dependable. And speaking about the evolution from a consumer and tech perspective, I mean, historically, car sharing services has been around for a number of years, that's for sure. But still, what they all are lacking is to generate or to offer a truly dependent service that you as a user and a consumer or a company truly can depend on. What this means is that car sharing services up till today, they haven't been a true complement or true replacement to car ownership. So people have been, it's been challenging for you to actually feel comfortable about accessing a car when you actually need it. So this is something that has driven a sort of a behavior where users start booking cars very far ahead in time, which makes the dependability to car sharing lacking. But I mean, car sharing itself, what we've seen lately, I mean already, let's say 20 years, I mean we're all aware of it in terms of the increasing awareness to sustainability and environmental awareness. We see the trends relating to moving from ownership to access. We see the increasing urbanization, as I mentioned before, and of course the evolvement of the digitization and the consumer expectations evolving to being more about personalization and on demand. So based upon this, we're taking this into our new service, which is to enable more people to move freely, meaningfully, and sustainably. I mean, these are big words, but just touching upon the freely, this means truly being able to offer personal service that is suited for your needs when you need it, access to cars when you need it on your conditions. And sustainably, of course, I mean, that comes down to if we are able to offer a service that more people can rely upon, then of course we can bring more people into the system that actually can rely upon a shared car, and by that we can also minimize the number of private-owned cars in the cities. And the sustainability here is also about the idea, the concept of even though I come from the Volvo car family, I mean this is truly an initiative to be able to meet the changing consumer expectations and demands where we see a potential to actually for every single car that we manufacture or that we order and bring onto the streets, we need to make sure that those cars actually are being driven, that they are utilized. Because we have problems in the private world with the car ownership, where cars are standing idle for a very long time. And speaking about I mean, I just want to bring this picture up because we are open for partnership. I mean, that's where that's part of our core. I mean, we're supporting progressive cities and companies and seek ways to actually work with the cities and companies of our cities in order to bring car sharing to more people, and in order to minimize the number of privately owned cars in our cities. Because this is the motivation and the problem that we stem from, or what we're working for. I mean, we do want to serve a purpose where we are moving away from a car-centric city to a more human-centric cities. And this is driven by a regular car parking spot takes up 3 square meters of the city space. In general, in average in Stockholm, it takes 18 minutes to park, and that's why we are still a station-based car sharing service. And this comes also down to privately owned cars, even though they are consumer-owned or whether they are company-owned. In general, they stand idle 23 hours per day. And just want to show this as well, because this is just an illustration of what it could possibly mean in terms of replacing owned cars with shared vehicles. Because research suggests that one shared car can possibly replace up to 10 or 13 cars. And I mean, the idea here is also an important role for us, is to prove to the cities and prove to companies and private persons that the important is to do something else, to reimagine and reclaim this space and reimagine it, to do something else with the possible space that is created while pulling cars away from the streets. And if we just gonna get into the detail of the service and why I'm in this forum, and to show what is actually truly different from all other existing car sharing services. It takes its starting point from a smoother experience, where we actually look. We start off from the customer experience, because historically, this is one of the 2 views all other existing car sharing services provide a user. You are forced to either, first of all, look for a station which is close to you. Most often you come into this type of static booking schedule, where you are then forcing the user to find a spare capacity. And of course, this then drives a behavior which I mentioned earlier, that people tend to book cars a lot earlier than their actual needs. So let's say that you are booking maybe 4 weekends in a row just in order to be prepared in case you would need that car. And then when the weekend arrives, then all of a sudden on Thursday, I don't need a car, so then you let go of the booking. But then you destroy the whole schedule for everyone else in the service. So instead, what we've done, we've flipped upon it by asking 3 simple questions in the service. When do you need a car, close to what location, and what type of car? And based upon this, putting the user's needs first, we get something that we call intent. We have the ability then to capture intent, which identify location of demand. So this is at core our operational model, where we, for every single booking or for every single request from a user, we get a data point which we can learn from and better predict over time where we need to be with our stations, what stations we can close down, what stations do we need to increase capacity with, during what times. So we are so much more dynamic here. So we're able to reallocate. We're constantly tracking the intents, and by that we're learning where to have cars and at what time, and then we're also able then to reallocate in order to better match the demand and supply. And this is essentially, this is just an example how it can look like. These small little dots, they are these intents, these consumer requests that are being created every single minute. And over time, we've just been live for 3.5 weeks, but over time we get so much data that we can easily match towards our existing station network, and we can then also identify, of course, do we need more cars over these periods, or where do we need to open up a new station somewhere else, or So this is essentially the core of our service, which we are to rely upon in order to, once again, coming back to dependability, in order to be able to create a truly dependent service that you can depend upon. Because by this we can actually we do the scheduling behind the scenes rather than having you as a user do the scheduling like 4 weeks ahead in time. And also one part of car sharing is historically it has been barriers often go down in garages. It's difficult with wayfinding, so we worked a lot with the wayfinding both in our app but also in terms of the stations, how we brand them with the certain star stations. And to your note earlier as well, I mean, it's a truly fully digital experience. Everything is in the app, right? From registration and onboarding to the service to unlocking and locking the car, everything, no keys at all. So you just as soon as you are closing into the car, you get notification here you want to unlock, and you see the registration plate, and then enter the car and off you go. And speaking about barriers to enter and personal experience, what we've done now as well, because most often you have striped cars, we've done it truly personal here as well. So you should feel like this is my car when I need it. So we removed all the stripes. You can't tell that it is a shared vehicle other than this, the Volvo on call button. We talked about the e-call and things, and I mean still we have those functionalities in there. But the Volvo on call, which you usually have in all Volvos, we replaced it with an M button. So instead of pushing that button and calling to the central Volvo organization, you're in straight in direct contact with customer care 24/7. And just to round off things, I mean, we're just 3.5 weeks in from launch, and I mean, bear with us. We are in an early phase, definitely. So we've launched the live version of a consumer proposition, and then for our business proposition, we are in a beta. But I mean, we do continuously, iterate on our product and do new releases, more or less every day. So we are definitely on the right track. We've come far, but it's still a lot of things that we have on our wish list to make this the truly smart car sharing service of the future. And at the bottom line, and I mean, it comes down to our users that are part of our service that we learn from and continuously build upon the insights from them. Thank you.
So our next one is Milos from Telia.
Thank you.
Take it away.
Thank you. So, thank you everyone. I would like to address this topic today from the power of partnerships, and then go down to Telia Sense that we have as a solution, as a use case of partnerships. So to start with, Milos Herman is my name. I work in a department called Division X in Telia. Do you that don't know that? That's where we do all the fun stuff. So Division X is kind of a product house where we develop new kind of services, like Telia Sense, like Internet of Things, healthcare, smart cities, crowd analytics, all those kind of new things. They will then bring out to the countries, organizations that can bring it en masse to the markets in the Nordics and Baltics. So on the topic on partnerships. We started actually the journey 2009 when we started to look into end-to-end, machine-to-machine, which then became IoT, Internet of Things, in some time. And what we had to come to the market was actually the connectivity and the SIM cards and the networks. So we said if we want to be relevant in the end-to-end or IoT, we had to partner up with companies that have the ecosystem solution from hardware modules up to management consultants, helping companies to make use of the IoT solutions that we so much visualized about. So what we did actually was to create the partner program that at that time started and ran. We actually ran it until 2017. When we started the partner program, we said to those partners, we will run it at least for 2 years. And then we see if it's still needed. Because if it's not needed, if the market's up and running, we don't really need a partner program. But we actually ran it until 2017, and we had 81 companies being part of our partner program during this time. This is a snapshot of the last 2017. We had those partners. The purpose with this was to accelerate the end-to-end IoT business together with the partners, to get it up and running and get the idea out to the market. For us, the purpose was, of course, to position ourselves being the facilitator of this as kind of the leader with the end-to-end. We still only sold the connectivity at the time. We thought we could take the thought leadership here, working together with those partners. And of course, the idea was if those partners out there were creating solutions, we would get all the connectivity from those. So that was kind of a starting point. And we did a lot of different kind of business with those partners, both from new solutions, reselling some of, they were reselling our connectivity. But one of the partners here was Springworks, you see them here. And that's where the idea was born, to look at, because we said that we should look into some end-to-end solution. We were out there having visions with customers, what they could do with those IoT connectivity. So we wanted to prove that we can make an end-to-end solution, and it was about cars. And of course, it also fitted into Telia's strategy, because we connect the home, we connect the workplace, and we could also connect the car where people are. So it kind of fitted into that strategy. So this is a little bit where the idea of connecting the car was born. And then we start to cooperate with Springworks, some of them are here. So it is actually kind of end-to-end IoT solution that we created within the car space. But mainly we said this will be a platform, again, for partners around the car to provide services to car owners and car drivers. So this was the main idea when we created the Telia Sense solution. The main idea was not to just put in a plug and provide Wi-Fi for car drivers. It was to create a platform for ecosystem of services. So that's what we did. So actually, basically, what is it, Telia Sense? It is, as I normally say, it is a marketplace for partners. And what it consists of is actually, when you buy the solution, you get it from a partner, you get some basic functionalities like Wi-Fi, driving journal, road toll, tempering alarm, driving behavior. So you get those kind of things that we normally perhaps get with the other car connectivity apps that the OEMs provide. So it's just kind of basic, and we have it there. But the interesting stuff is that when we start to work together with partners, that they can provide partner services, and I will show some examples of those. And it is around insurance, parking, car service, road assistance, car inspections. So those kind of services that we invite partners to make use of the connected car. Physically, it is an OBD hardware. Yes, we need to have those. This is the Sense hardware, because otherwise we don't get the data from the car. But of course, over time in the future, perhaps we will not need this one. We will get the data directly from the car, but probably that will take some years, some 5 years, because 5 to 10 years, because all the cars provide the data. But I think we'll start to look at that. The solution is sold, provided to the market, well, by us, but also by the partners, because they have based their services on this. So they provide it to the market. So if you look at the partners we have today, signed and up and running, some of them. So we have around the partners, car as a service, it's car sharing, we have discussion there. Looking at the solution, we have the insurance, you know, PayDrive perhaps. So they have based all their user-based insurance on Telia Sense. Volkswagen are doing that. We have the emergency, Viking, that's car towing, Securitas, that service is ready, not yet launched. They will send the guards to your car if it's tampered with. So that will be a service. We have Bilia that if you sign up for the service here, which is actually for free, they will get all the error codes for your car. If there's something wrong, they will call you. Bilprovningen is quite easy, actually, just to book your time for inspection. Autoexperten is car service that will do similar thing like Bilia. They have signed for us, and it's been a press release a year ago, and they're building it right now, the solution, to make use of the error codes and the driving distance and the odometer of the car. We have Easy Park, that's the most popular one in the app. So if you use Easy Park for parking and you drive away, the Telia Sense will stop the parking automatically. And then we have the company expense, Visma, all the driving journals going automatically into the ERP systems. So we have about 10 of them here that we're working together with. So pretty much when you see this scheme, the idea is of building the ecosystem again here for partner services, that we are not the best one doing those, they are. Motormännen actually, you know, M Sverige, M Sweden is the new name, they changed the name from Motormännen, nowadays it's M Sverige.
Volvo?
Yes, I asked Motormännen, how about that M? So yes, they started to provide Telia Sense as part of the membership. They have 100,000 members. And we are building this ecosystem. Today we are running it in Sweden, in Denmark, we are looking at Finland right now. I have a picture here, Sense users. We can't tell you how many we have, because many of the partners, they don't want to disclose that. One partner does disclose that, and that's PayDrive. They have based all the customers in Telia Sense, and they have 9,000 customers today. Here's a snapshot of the Telia Sense cars in a given moment. And you can see also that we have some out there in Europe driving with the cars.
Is that stolen cars, or is it?
No, actually, we have kind of free roaming all over Europe, so we are out there driving at a distance. So yes, they are in use out there right now. And what I would like to do is actually, the rest of the 5 minutes, I will, if I get a connection here, I will step out here and give you a very short demo. It's always more fun to see how it looks like in the real world. So this is Telia Sense, and there you see my car is up there, here, Älgö, where I live. I went by the train today to here. And the first part here is pretty much normal, as you will find with Volvo Call and BMW Connected Drive. They all have this kind of, that you can see your car, you have the information about the car, you have the position alarm, you have the tempering alarm, you can shut on, shut off, you have the odometer, all the normal stuff. Then you have the events of the car, it's like a Facebook flow. So you can see your trips, you can see that parking was stopped here by Easy Park when I parked, and it's actually very much a flow of what's happening with the car. If you have some tempering alarms, you will see it here. If I have some, yeah, you have one here when I close. So this is, you have You have a good view of your car, and you have your trips that you can mark as work, private, or going to the work. And it has a built-in driving journal, of course, so you can go in whenever and see where you've been. And this one you can also export to them, of course, and use as a driving journal, and also automatically have it into the company's ERP system. We also have the statistics. How are you driving? Wow, I think read right now. I don't have that. Here you also see what we heard before, that you can see that my car is normally used. The statistics. I think I can see it if I look in here. More statistics. And that's the score. Here. Yeah. Yeah. I'll find it. Here it is, yeah. So you can see that my car is parked 96.72% of the time. So you were right. Yes. But the funny stuff here, what I was getting to, is the partners, actually. So here we have the partners. I activated Eastpark, Bilprovningen, Viking, Bilia. So when you want to use, for example, Viking towing, if you're stuck in a tunnel somewhere, you don't know who to call, how to get help, you just open this up and you order assistance. They will get through the APIs, they get the location, where your car is. If there is something wrong with the car, they get the batteries and stuff like that. And you will see on the map here when they're on the way to you. And then you have Easy Park. I told you about that. You normally use their own app to start parking, and then Telia sends through the API ends the parking. So if you forget it, it will end it automatically for you. Bilia, as I told you, it says your car is okay. There are no error codes. Otherwise, I will give a notice here, and they get it through the CRM system, Bilia to the customer service, and they will call you if the lamp is lit in your car. And then if you want to add a partner service, it's very easy here to do. For example, you have to have their insurance in order to activate this. I don't have it, for example, so I can't add this. But I can add PayDrive. PayDrive actually allows you to add this service without having their insurance, so you can get a feel of your scores, how you're driving, and that's kind of for free, they give it. So I accept the deal here, add the service, and here is what I also wanted to show you, that we do not share data with anyone unless the customer, in this case, this is what I consent to that I will share with PayDrive now, because they need all this data to calculate my scores. So this is what we do with all the partners. The customer accepts sharing the data, and then we send it to the partner. Otherwise, we of course don't share any data. We don't even keep the data for the customer. So I accept it, and then yes, it's added. So if I go back, I have PayDrive, and I have my score. Actually, it starts on 100, it's maximum score. I removed PayDrive earlier today, so it remembers 1 month. So you can just jump out and jump in again and get 100. So yeah, this is my score. And what they do is, if you get 70, you get the best insurance from them. I have to drive a little bit more carefully to get that. And then of course they will send out the notice. If you have 70, they will send out the notice. You drive really well. You save money with our insurance, and you can sign the insurance here. And then you have a lot of statistics. We have, for example, if you park in Stockholm on the street, and if it's forbidden to park there, you will get a notice in the app to remind you on that. So we have a lot of those kind of services. But again, the main thing is the partner setup here that we're working with to get services onto the platform.
Wonderful.
Yep.
Thank you, Milos. So Niclas, take it away.
Thank you. My name is Nick, and since 2015, approximately, I've tried to convince the world, at least in Sweden, to drive an electrical car. And I started my company at home I think it was in March 2015, after about 6 months of market study. And today, Eways is a charging operator, EV charging operator. And our vision is that everyone will drive electric. We are building a network. We have a Nordic business plan, but we're focused on Sweden currently. And we've taken up this famous Hej då macken, which all of you that speak Swedish probably know, that it's from an old TV series, but it's a little bit what it's all about. It's about finishing the life you've had with your gas station and wishing them well in the future, and now you don't need them anymore. So I think my view is that I'll come to that actually. I'd like to show you this picture here first. This is, can anyone guess where this is? This is Fifth Avenue, of course, in 1900. Can any one of you spot the car? So what's all this? Do you know? Horses, yes, of course. New York is full of horses, basically. This is 1900 on Fifth Avenue. 13 years later, can any of you spot the horse? Well, it's here. Poor horse amongst cars. Those of you who've been to New York, you know that in this time, technology shifts quickly. You have a horse, and then 13 years later, you have a car. Unfortunately, the car is not all good. It spits out a lot of combustions and a lot of bad things that we don't need to breathe. And car from this time frame or time period, the car companies have grown really, really strong. They've been really fortunate, I would say, in their business model. And they are combined with the oil industry in an evil, I would say, or at least not bad for the earth. It's also been part of the financial economy for all of the industrial world. Basically, the car has been the driver, and it would probably prolong for a long time, I would think, if it wasn't for this company that came along, trying to, or actually not only trying, they were actually making a very attractive product, car that you can use in your daily life. And that product, or these products that they have now, are showing the way into the future. And I was with Yancy, and I was here connecting sensors and running around the sensors. I met with Tesla in 2012. I tried the Model S, and I sort of, understood that if this is coming, it's going to change everything. And I think it's all good that we leave the oil behind us and we try to focus on something better. So now there is, of course, a product that you can buy, and I urge you all to go out and buy an electric car. It's not that much more money, actually, if you look at the way it's structured now. I will show you briefly. And the electrical car is, my computer is a bit slow here, is a lot more efficient than the regular engine. The car companies have not been able to, I would say, if you look at oil and how you use oil and gasoline, it's not so efficient if you compare to electricity. Plus, it's an electric car is very silent, and you notice this in the street when you see a car. Many people feel that that's a problem because you can be hit, but I don't think that's a major problem. When you drive, you feel that the car is really silent, and it's something smooth, it's good. And it's clean. At least it's very clean where we are in the big city. And the cars are about 35% of the problem, the air pollution problem that we have. But there are more advantages. I'm clicking here because we have a little less time. One big advantage, I would say, is it's very comfy to have an electric car. You can charge it at home. Most people will be able to do this. Even if you live in a villa or in a bostadsrätt or hyresrätt, all of the home settings you will be able to charge your car. There's less maintenance and they're cheaper to run. There are no fuel transports. We have a magnificent electrical system all over the industrial world where you can charge. And it's not really a big problem even, because many people talk about the electrical system. What will happen with the cars is that the big issue is that you want to charge your car in the bigger city. This is where Eways where we are focused on the model where you go inside the city. And then you will spread out the cars and the charging points all over the map, and it's not going to be a problem. Calculations say that it's about 75% more increase in electricity. And of course, if you would charge all cars very rapidly in a local setting, it will become a problem. But the key is to spread them out, of course, and they are already spread out. You have a nice, comfy, warm car when you come out in the winter, and the driving characteristics are phenomenal. So I would say that the future is really bright for the car industry. It's going to be a super, super big change for everyone working in the industry. For all the customers, you look forward to a very nice car that's coming. And I think Tesla is showing this. They're about 10 years ahead of everyone else. And the Model 3, if you haven't tried it out, please go to Mall of Scandinavia, Telecentrum, and try it. It's like the iPhone of cars. It's shifting your brain, it's like you've sat here and you played with a Nokia phone, Tetris, and you were, pretty happy, and then suddenly you have this iPhone. That's basically what happens when you jump into a Model 3. I personally feel that the trendy Swedes that we have here, if you talk about Sweden, we're like a lot of followers, and you can see this in the figures that if whatever product that booms, everyone buys the same thing. And this is really happening now with Tesla Model 3. And there will be, of course, cheaper cars. But I'm not here to sell Tesla, I'm just showing you this. The other popular cars in Sweden are, of course, the Mitsubishi. If you haven't seen that one, I'm probably quite sure you have. But other cars, and the trend now is that electrical vehicles are becoming, they have longer range, and the price point is going down. So I think most of the people that have like a leased car will be able to pay what you're equivalent to paying right now in about 2 years. And the range will be from 150 miles up to 500 approximately. And this is the most use case for a car. If you want to drive to Åre or Skåne or out in other places, you can talk to M maybe, and you can pick up a car and do that trip. But all the other trips could be totally electrical. And there is a rapid development now, not only Tesla. Tesla's opened up the market, but I found this little Think City. It came in 2010. You could go from 0 to 100 in 16 seconds, and the range was 161 kilometers. And the price was 360,000 crowns when it came in 2010. I don't know if you've seen this one in the street, but not only, never in the street. But now Volkswagen is coming with ID3. This is only 10 years later. Now it's half. You can go in 8 seconds, and you can go 330 kilometers, and it's the same price. So this is an enormous, in 10 years, it's fantastic. So if you add another 10 years, it will probably fly come in the future. So if you're looking at Sweden, here, we are in the forefront of this, and this is a forecast of electrical cars, green being electrical and blue being hybrid. You can see that here, we're only here. This is the beginning of a huge trend. Does anyone know how many cars, gas cars we have in Sweden, fossil cars? About 5 million. About 5 million cars in this small country. And all the forecasts that we found say that there will be about 2.5 million electrical cars in approximately 10 years. There's a major shift in this industry. And I've actually said in some interviews that I think that politicians should start focusing on scrapping old cars. It's going to be a big problem if you just take whatever Volvo or cars we have on our streets and we move them to Poland or other places, and they will still be on the earth, and we will feel happy here driving our electrical cars. But maybe your car will continue, for years, 20 years. So I think since we have a very good financial situation, it's time to pay off the debt and get rid of the cars. Of course, a very difficult issue, but still, it would be a great one. Nordics are also in the lead here. Norway, they've really taken down the barriers for electrical cars. So many Norwegians can drive a Tesla Model S at the same price as a normal car, which is great. And it's also shown that money talks, basically. Iceland is also picking up, even though it's a small country. And we are the third nation. And I feel that things are very slow here, but it's still fast compared to other countries, which is good. So you might think, okay, so now all these electrical cars come. How about charging? How do we charge all these cars? Today you go to the gas station and you fill it up in 4 minutes and then you drive off. What about this? What about how to go about this? So in the inner city or in the bigger city, you tend to drive from your work from your home to work and then back again. And then you have certain amounts of activities that you do. You drive kids to sports, you do your own sports, and you go maybe shopping, and you do types of activities. And in Stockholm, you don't drive that much, about 2.5 kilometers per, 25 kilometers per day, actually, which is not much at all. So, like Mr. M said here, the cars are sitting still and you're not using them that much. And that's true. So our focus is to charge the cars at home and mainly in the office and sometimes while you're in some type of activity. And this happens to be in Täby Centrum, where we have 28 charging sockets. So I think a shopping scenario is of course a place where you can charge your car, but mainly at home and at work. And there's also, in the media you can read about fast charging, where you can charge up to 150 kilowatts per hour, which is super fast. You can fill your car in 30-40 minutes, which is good in a way when you drive long distances, but that's not so rare. The rare focus is, or the rare use case is at home, basically, and in your daily life. And since you don't drive that much in general, you don't need that much electricity. So you can actually charge, like my Tesla, I use one phase 16 amps, which gives me about 20 kilometers per hour. And that's more than I usually even use. So by spreading out the network, charging at home, it's going to be very efficient and low cost for everyone. And like Täby Centrum, it's a way of attracting the new customer, which is coming with the electric cars. Obviously, they will start shopping in the shopping center, which is the whole idea. So in our charging network, we spread out chargers. We have about 3,000 connected chargers in Sweden currently. I had here from 2015, we had two charging sessions. This is actually each time someone takes an Eways cord and cable, puts it in his or her car. So we did in 2018, 82,000 charging sessions. And I think in 2019, our forecast is about 250,000 and then 500,000 for 2020. So it's growing rapidly. So now you can ask, what do we do then? So we have a cloud solution. So all our charging stations are connected to our cloud solution. So we can monitor them, we can see how they are doing, they can give us alarms if they don't live up to standard. If something happens, we will see it immediately. So we can actually tell the people that own the charging station, it's usually a large corporation or a facility owner. So we can help them with the quality of service in this. And we can also hook up a lot of different payment solutions. In this picture here, this is our cloud basically here. We have the charging manufacturers that have charging stations. We don't produce the hardware ourselves, we hook them up to our cloud. And then we can provide our own internal services, but then also we can, with our API, connect to many other three-party payment systems like EasyPart. We have our own card solution where you use an RFID card to charge. And we've integrated with Swish also, the Swedish Swish. I'd like to show you a short, it's not a movie, it's a film. Just to show you.
Sverige ska bli en av världens första fossilfria välfärdsländer. För vi måste få en global smitta av att vi kan visa att man kan leva gott utan fossila bränslen. Utmaningen på kort sikt är i trafiken, men bordet är dukat. Vi har grejer. Elektrifieringen kommer med buller och bång som visar på andra smartare lösningar än förbränningsmotor.
Vårt arbete på Eways handlar väldigt mycket om att hjälpa samhället med omställningen från fossila bilar till elbilar. För att alla ska kunna välja elbil så måste man kunna ladda sin bil på så många platser som möjligt i samhället. Nu har vi valt att integrera med Swish, vilket gör att hela 6,5 miljoner människor idag som har Swish-appen direkt kan starta laddning i våra laddstationer. Man skannar QR-koden, signerar med BankID och sen startar laddningen direkt.
Det började användas på en gång. Så fort stationerna var uppsatta med Swish så förstod folk hur de skulle göra. Vi jobbar mycket med hållbarhetsfrågor och då är det här väldigt naturligt att vi finns för våra kunder, våra hyresgäster med laddstationer och ger möjlighet till modernare lösningar. Det vi har märkt är att genom att vi sätter upp laddstationer så lockar vi våra kunder och hyresgäster att gå över till de modernare laddhybridbilar och även elbilar. Så att efterfrågan ökar allt eftersom vi bygger ut.
So I hope you picked it up even though it's in Swedish. For those of you that. So, and I think that the payment system part, making it really easy to pay for charging, is one of the challenges. So I think that connecting Swish to charging stations is a way for us as an independent charging operator to push the boundaries a bit, to make it really easy for everyone to use the service, rather than trying to squeeze every customer into our own model. We open it up, and it works fine. We have about 500 connected Swish charging stations in Sweden, and the demand for this type of solution is high, so that's good. But Swish is not really so good when you charge every day at the same time. You have a lot of switching to do basically, so you get a lot of different short or very brief receipts, which is not so convenient for the customer. So we have this card solution. It's mostly used when you park in your work, for instance, every day at the same place. So your company, they're not giving you electricity, you have to pay for it in some way. So you get our card, the charging stations are locked, and you use the RFID card to open it up and charge. And then monthly we send out a digital receipt and we deduct the total amount from MasterCard, Visa, and American Express, whatever you have connected in our portal then. So that was the use case basically for the work area, and we have companies like Tetra Pak, Alfa Laval, big companies that use these cards as a payment solution for their employees. But the good thing is that you can also use it in a place like a shopping center like Niclas Sahlgren in Sweden. So, and I've met one customer, he's working at Nordea, we have the charging stations at Nordea, and he has Eways at home, and then he went to Sickla with his card, so he can actually go around, and you get one receipt, which is good, of course. But then we have many charging stations outdoor, especially. So we have integrated with EasyPark. And what we do with EasyPark is that you have a code on the charging socket, and you just fill in the code in EasyPark, and you start charging. And then it starts immediately from EasyPark to our cloud, and we connect it, we start it. And then when you end your session, we measure the amount of energy, and we bake a little file, and we send it to EasyPark, and they put it on the receipt, depending on the pricing situation for that location. So our network is built up that we have the pricing is always based on the socket in that area, and by doing that, you can have one card or EasyPark. You can have different pricing situations depending on the company behind the charging station. So we've also found out that when you drive an EV or you buy an EV, it's new for everyone, and some people don't know how to do this, how to start the service, how to end it, and what happens if the socket is locked or the cable is stuck. So we found that after about 200 charging stations, I've received too many calls, basically, on my phone. So I said, well, maybe it's time for some type of customer service. So we started around the clock. It's all year, every day in the week, 24/7, 365. And we are about 7 people that share this service. We have an app that it's Telia app, Milos Telia app, and we use the app, and then we take calls. And since everything is online, we can go in and manage the network ourselves, which is great. Eventually, we might be able to have to outsource this, but today it's very important for us to speak to all the customers and learn the use cases, the problems, the challenges, and there's so many happy car owners out there that I've spoken to myself. So I still do this during the weekends. So I think when or if you buy a charging station, consider the customer service part, that your employees or in your bostadsrätt, you don't want to be stuck. You want help. So that's really important. And then I'm selling by showing you some of our customers. We are focused on customers that have many cars, basically. This is where we can make a difference, we think. If we help the many car owners, many cars will shift from fossil to electricity. So please, bye-bye gas station.
Just under 1 million clients. The reason I'm here is that this is a place that we feel has a lot of new energy and new ideas. And well, one of the things that we see as the future, something that is coming definitely, is the electric cars, as we saw from the last presentation as well. But what we see as a Wild West in this sense is the business models built around the technology, because you have a lot of interesting pieces of technology to build around, but we don't know what the correct business models are or what give us the best results. So for this, we have started our own idea competition. So how to participate is just to submit an idea at ideahub.zenefit.com. What you need is just a few paragraphs of description for your idea, and that's about it. Then if you are chosen for the best ideas, then there will be a couple of pitching rounds. And then you can win 30,000 euros. We do not expect you to have done any work with the idea prior to this competition, or any work that you should do after this competition. And the money comes with no strings attached. And the best thing is that you can submit as many ideas as you want.
Very good.
Yes.
Thank you so much. We will try to do this, and I don't really know what this is going to be, but Kimo here has something to share with us. So let's see.
Thank you so much. Hello, everybody. My name is Kimo Arbis. I'm the founder and inventor of Pilot Angel. I'm here in Stockholm on a entrepreneur exchange through the European Union. So I don't have to tell you about intoxication and the damage it causes and costs in human suffering and costs from insurance and to the environment, et cetera, et cetera. But also fatigue and drowsiness when a person's tired also has a huge impact. Our award-winning patented system, Pilot Angel, helps prevent accidents and increase work efficiency by monitoring and predicting fatigue, as well as detecting intoxication in real time. And we do this with a wearable and an app. The wearable can be built into any hard hat or a trucker hat, or can be worn as a simple headband. We're looking to do pilot projects, so please talk to me after it, and if you have any questions, I'm here to help.
Great, thank you. Now I will go and get the guys down there and give them all the hard questions.